Michael Carter was used to silence. It followed him everywhere, across his penthouse suite, through boardrooms filled with stiff handshakes, and even in the back of his chauffeur-driven car. Silence had become his most loyal companion, though it often reminded him of the one thing he didn't have, a family. On a chilly Saturday afternoon, Michael decided to walk through the city park, a rare break from endless meetings and deadlines. He watched families laugh together, kids chasing balloons, parents holding hands. He shoved his hands into his pockets, trying to ignore the gnawing emptiness in his chest. That's when he heard a small voice behind him. "Excuse me, sir." He turned. A little girl, no older than 7, stood with wide brown eyes and pigtails slightly undone. Her tiny hands clutched a crumpled $50 bill. "Here," she said, thrusting it toward him. "I just need a dad, for one day." Michael froze. He thought it was some kind of prank. But the girl's eyes weren't joking, they were pleading. "What do you mean?" he asked carefully. She bit her lip, glanced at the playground where other kids were playing with their fathers, then whispered, "It's Father-Daughter Day at school on Monday. All the kids are bringing their dads. Mine doesn't live with us anymore. Mom works 2 jobs. I thought maybe if I pay you, you could come. Just pretend to be my dad for a day." The world seemed to stop. Michael looked at the $50 shaking in her hand. For a man who had made billions, this little crumpled bill carried more weight than all the wealth he'd ever earned. He knelt down, his throat tight. "Sweetheart, you don't need to pay me anything." But she shoved the bill into his hand anyway. "Please. I don't want to be the only one sitting alone." Michael swallowed hard. Loneliness was a language he understood all too well. And here was this little girl, brave enough to bargain for love, even if only borrowed. "All right," he said softly. "I'll be your dad for the day." That Monday, Michael showed up at her school. For the first time in decades, he wasn't wearing his CEO armor. No sharp suits, no cold expression, just a man in a sweater, holding a little girl's hand as she beamed with pride. She introduced him to her classmates, her teachers, even whispered, "Thank you," when no one was looking. He sat through crafts, painted clumsy handprints, and listened to the kids share stories about their fathers. When it was her turn, the little girl stood tall and said, "My dad is strong and smart. He's always there when I need him." Then she glanced at Michael with a smile so genuine it nearly broke him. Something inside Michael shifted that day. For the first time in years, he laughed, a deep, unguarded laugh. He felt needed, not for his money, not for his power, but simply for being there. When the day ended, the little girl hugged him tightly. "Even if you were only my dad for today, it was the best day ever." Michael blinked back tears. "And you gave me the best day of my life." But the story didn't end there. A week later, Michael found himself at her home, meeting her tired mother, a woman balancing 2 jobs, doing her best to keep everything afloat. He quietly began helping, at first with groceries, then school fees, always careful not to intrude. Over time, what began as one day of pretend fatherhood blossomed into something real. Michael didn't just find a little girl who needed a dad, he found a family who unknowingly gave him back his heart. Years later, Michael would often say that the greatest deal he ever made wasn't in a boardroom, but in a city park, with a little girl offering $50 and a chance to matter. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, a day, a hug, a promise, can change a life forever.